Welcome to the Pulse with Peter Urbina. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And as we promised last week, we are going to continue with our shows week after week after week. And today we want to cover what the whole world is talking about, and especially here in the United States, and that's, of course, the coronavirus pandemic. We're going to devote our whole show to the pandemic that's going on. A little later on, we're going to have a premiere on the show. Alex Tava is going to be joining us. She's going to be giving you some symptoms of how to not drive yourself crazy at home and to make sure that you are continuing to make sure that your mental health is there. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And we're even going to have Matt Waymeyer join us later on with all those sports fans out there craving sports. But we need to begin with Josh Sotomayor Einstein, our political analyst every week. Josh, what's going on, my man?
It's good to be here. If you don't know, at home, we've been locked in here since last show. Quarantine is just killer, man.
Exactly. And he looks this good. I must have some great products here or something like that.
No, I wake up like this.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, I'm sure you do. Sure. I'm sure you do. Well, we'll never get those morning shots, I'm sure.
I totally don't look like I'm a homeless person normally.
Exactly.
Totally don't.
Exactly. Anyway, and just hang around the area of Washington Street. You'll probably see him out there with the homeless. Anyway, so Josh, lots has happened in the last week here. We want to talk about the local level because that's really the level that's affecting residents. So why don't we begin with Hudson County in general? I feel like Mayor Bala in Hoboken, Mayor Fulop in Jersey City, Mayor Rodriguez in West New York, Mayor Turner in Weehawken, each of them are sending out parameters of what residents can and cannot do. And it's almost like they're always trying to one-up each other, especially Fulop and Bala. Would you say that they are looking out for the health and well-being of residents, or they're just trying to make headlines?
So, generally speaking, most of the measures that are being undertaken, whether it's in Hoboken, Jersey City, New Jersey, New York City, New York State, are good advice and aimed at lowering the transmission rate and flattening the curve of infection. But you definitely have a fair amount of disingenuous grandstanding by politicians, both on the state and local level. Like, for example, when it comes to our Mayor Bala, when he issued his directive that, more establishments needed to close, if you looked at his press release, he said, we live in the era of alternative facts, science is science, truth is truth, as if those things were static. And what we've learned from the ongoing studies that have happened during this epidemic is that's not how science actually works. You have to study things in bigger and bigger studies, and then you get results that sometimes contradict past results. So science is not static, and just stating that we know, implying that we know everything doesn't really help anything. If you look at Mayor Bala's media conference that he did when he announced that we were essentially going on a quasi-quarantine or shelter-in-place order.
Isolation, he called it, right?
Yeah, self-isolation. He trotted out the police chief, and I love the police, to talk about what happened before he shut down the bars, as if that was new information, and it wasn't. When you look at Mayor Bala's letter to the federal government asking for some relief and for assistance, both for the individuals and for the businesses, which is a good thing, what it lacks and what his administration has lacked in totality is any plan locally how to make life easier for residents that may be struggling or businesses in town that may be struggling. So you have this ability right now that politicians have. Obviously, they have a concern. They're humans. They don't want anyone to suffer unnecessarily. And a lot of what they're doing to address this pandemic is good stuff. And it hurts, but it's still the right thing to do. But you also have this inclination to ham it up, to want to be the first mayor to do something so that they get media attention. And you have that with Bala across the board in his track record of political involvement. And it's no different now. But when it comes to making the tough choices that leaders really should be making, that really define who a leader is and what leadership is, they don't want to do any of the tough calls, like saying, why are people still getting tickets right now?
Right.
Because the administration is most likely trying to fill its budget coffers to fill that $7 million budget hole that is now no longer in the news, but was leading the local news stories beforehand.
But Josh, going back to the communication aspect of it, I mean, there are times where Governor Murphy here in New Jersey, Governor Cuomo in New York are saying things that are completely different than their mayors. I mean, Mayor de Blasio was going to enact a shelter in place, and Cuomo's like, no, he's not. I mean, Mayor Bala brought up the self-isolation policy, and Governor Murphy was like, well, it's not really legal for him to do it. It's just a recommendation. I mean, does the communication have to be the same? Because I think it's causing confusion among the members of the public.
There is too much. There are basic, rules that we should be following in any sort of epidemic, which is to shelter in place, to distance from each other socially. Actually, we're probably sitting a little bit too close to each other.
It's okay. We've been here for over a week, like you said.
That is true. I don't like sitting close to you anyway, but for the sake of the show, we have to.
Exactly.
But the constant communication without any new information is really, it's going to have a saturation effect, and it's going to get people to tune out. And you see that already, because before Bala issued his shelter-in-place order, which, as you pointed out, isn't exactly legal, people were sheltering in place. The vast majority of town was working from home. The streets were mostly empty. So I think it actually had a counter effect, a negative impact that was unforeseen, because I think people are taking it less seriously. And if you look at the polling nationally, the more our political talking heads talk about this and just try to get that media attention, the less the overall percentage of the population believes that it's serious. And that will have dire ramifications as more people don't take it seriously and then spread the infection. And then, God forbid, anyone is hospitalized or dies because of that.
So what's next? What do you think? Do you think we're going down the path of a national self-quarantine? What do you see for the days and weeks leading up?
So I definitely see, at least on a state level, the state governments of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey have been in communication and working together. I definitely see a statewide quarantine ahead, probably a national quarantine ahead, just so that we can get everyone to stay indoors and flatten the curve. Because, here in Hoboken and Hudson County, it's very intense. Everyone feels it. Over half of Hoboken works in New York City, so they've, been companies that have branches around the world. So everyone's been really affected and plugged into what's going on. But I was talking to friends that live in the Jersey burbs, and it's a different story there. It's not as real. It's not as tangible to them. And people are traveling a lot more in the rest of New Jersey and in the rest of the country overall. So I think in order to get things to slow down, I think our state and federal government is going to, in the end, be forced to have first a state and then national quarantine.
Really quickly, we have a few seconds left here. Do you think that people will actually adhere by the rules? Governor Cuomo said it in his press conference the other day. He was like, I know New Yorkers, they like to break the law. And I don't think New Jerseyans are much better.
Well, people are legitimately concerned about the rising infection rate. And, we should realize that there's probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that are actually infected. So it's just a matter of getting infection under control so that our hospitals aren't swamped, so people that have pre-existing conditions or the elderly that really need intensive care don't end up dead.
Well, Josh Sotomayor-Einstein, always fun having him in studio, our political analyst every week. Folks, when we come back, as I mentioned, we have a premiere in studio. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be back.
Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Postal Peter B. Folks, don't forget to get on our YouTube page and binge watch all of our past episodes. Type in the Postal Peter B in your search bar and please subscribe. Also, go on our Instagram page and follow us at The Pulse with Peter B. Get on our Facebook page and follow and like us there. All you have to do is type in The Pulse with Peter B in the search bar. You're not going to want to miss it. We're constantly updating that page with previews. We put our full shows on there. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our email address, and that is thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. We look forward to responding to you.
welcome back to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm Peter Biancamano, and as you can see, I am a lot less energized. I kind of feel very, very calm and confident, and I want to welcome, after that wonderful demonstration, Alexandria, and I messed that up in the last segment, my apologies, Tava, Alexandria, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I mean, and you are a sound healer, and you did give us a little bit of a, as I mentioned, a demonstration on it. What was that supposed to do?
So sound healing, well, let's start, we're all vibrational. So our interaction right now, you have a vibration that's interacting with me and vice versa. When you use an instrument with a purpose, such as a sound bowl, it works with your energy system and can calm down any anxiety. It's supposed to just kind of bring you back to center. Even without you being aware of it, it'll just kind of bring you back to that 0 point line.
Interesting. So, and I'm telling you, and I'm not making a shtick here because we're on TV. I mean, I just feel much, much calmer. And I know Matt's going to be joining us next segment, but he was like, wow, as well, when he heard this as well. Would you say that in a time like this, because again, we want to cover the pandemic going on, how people are stuck inside their homes, how they're looking for things to do, because now it's mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, when people start thinking too much, I mean, it can cause problems in many different areas. Whether
We
that's
start to loop
exactly.
too much. Yeah.
Do you think just a few minutes a day practicing sound healing can be beneficial for people in a time like this?
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you've ever had a breakup, often you'll go to your favorite song. I don't know about you, but I've always gone to my favorite song. I put it on and I dance around the house, and it would instantly make me feel better. Sound healing is taking that concept but making it a little more targeted. So yeah, if you find that you're really overwhelmed, you lost your job, you're taking care of all your kids and you're at home, just take one step back, take a breath, maybe put on your favorite song, maybe put on me.
There you go. There you go.
And just take it in.
Just put on her, trust me.
And it'll just bring you back to that point of center. And you know, it doesn't fix everything. You know, I'm not a therapist. This is just something that I bring into my life, and I have seen the beautiful benefits that it's had on other people.
I was going to say, talk to me about the benefits that it's had on other people. Do you have some examples?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you can share that, that'll be...
So we'll go an extreme example and then an everyday example. An extreme example is sound healing has brought out a patient from coma. Music is the number one, and that was an experience I had with a client. Music is that really underlying state that goes into your subconscious. It doesn't matter where you are, music brings you back to a place of comfort. And yes, there's a lot of science studies about this, but at the end of the day, it's what you feel. So it's really, yeah, we can sit and talk about all of the data, but how do you feel when you hear that Eric Clapton song? How do you feel when you hear Erykah Badu or, you know, whoever is out, even Cardi B? It's like, okay, right now I believe that words kind of traumatize a little bit, so I'm going back to the source, which is the sound, the toning. That's what I want to offer people. Okay, so now then the everyday success story. You can't go to sleep at night. Put on some, you know, you could do the waterfalls or the rain, but maybe just put on some of the binaural beats, which are consciously chosen tones that work with your brain. That's going a little bit more into the science of it, and we could talk about that at a later point if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's just music written purposely for stress relief, for anxiety, for ADHD, and we're not utilizing it. And I think that this right now, the coronavirus, is actually giving us all a lot of an opportunity for holistic health to come forward.
Interesting. Okay. Now, you started a new venture. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you basically started it for those people who might be in need of a cure. I said symptoms in the last segment, and I was wrong. I want to apologize. Who are looking for a cure of, and again, you're not a therapist, like you said. You're not at that high level. But this is something that can possibly prevent somebody from getting to that level from
Yeah.
going into a therapist.
Yeah.
How can they find out more information? I know you said www.alexandriatava.com, correct? That's your website. And at Alexandria Tava is your Instagram handle, and people could reach out to you. But talk to me about your new venture here.
So I just started Blue Luna Healing, and that's going to be dedicated to giving trends on holistic lifestyle, specifically specializing in sound healing, in meditation, and mindfulness. And it really just starts with you and the willingness to want to alter or change or implement lifestyle changes. And that's where the holistic lifestyle aspect comes.
Great. I mean, and if they go on your website, you can see much more of the information. I'm just curious, though, how does one, you made that look very, very easy, that demonstration before. And you have a beautiful voice. And in later shows, by the way, we're hoping to have Alexandria on for weeks to come, if she's willing to come back. I mean, she did meet Josh, which is always like, which is always a turnoff for many people, trust me. Anyway, how does one come about to basically?
My favorite question.
If you can explain to me, because you made it look so easy, and I know I can't even bang on that thing without possibly breaking the ball.
You can do it. There's two things. Many of you might be healers as well. Actually, in the healing community, we say something. You don't find being a healer, the healing finds you. Often you go through something that's traumatic and life-altering, and you awaken to a pathway that brings you along learning these skill sets. And then along that journey, you then realize everyone's a healer. It's just when it's your time to awaken to it.
It's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, and
You too can play a soundboard.
listen. Tune in next week, folks. You never know. You never know. And I'm sure you do have. I know you do some sort of like Instagram lives or something like that, where people. Just to tell the audience when those are going to air. This way, people can find you and participate. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So I'm very active on social media. I feel like holistic healing is something that's very much needed right now in the time that we're in. So if you log on to Alexandria Tava on Instagram Live, I will be giving sound healing meditations. And those sound healing meditations are a little more targeted to our energy field. And that is a sound version of yoga. You go to a yoga class to do a practice. I'm structuring this for practicing.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, folks, make sure you follow her at Alexandria Tava, alexandriatava.com, and she'll hopefully be a regular guest here on The Pulse.
Yeah, definitely.
Folks, when we come back, Matt Waymeyer will be in studio. We'll be back.
Bye.
Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse of Peter B. Folks, don't forget to get on our YouTube page and binge watch all of our past episodes. Type in the Pulse of Peter B in your search bar and please subscribe. Also, go on our Instagram page and follow us at The Pulse with Peter B. Get on our Facebook page and follow and like us there. All you have to do is type in The Pulse with Peter B in the search bar. You're not going to want to miss it. We're constantly updating that page with previews. We put our full shows on there. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our email address, and that is thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. We look forward to responding to you.
Welcome back to The Pulse of Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and only on The Pulse, folks, will we actually talk about sports when there aren't any sports going on. And joining us is the sports expert himself, our sports insider, and that's Mr. Matt Waymeyer.
Am I a non-sports insider?
I guess so. Matt, there are a large part of our audience loves our sports on this network, and they're just sitting at home watching reruns of E60 or 30 and 30 or something like that, whatever they're showing on ESPN. I mean, last week now, over a week ago, when all of the leagues started with the NBA, then went to the NHL, then baseball came out and said we're delaying the start of the season by 2 weeks, and then spring training gets canceled, and then the one that hurts us the most, March Madness being canceled.
Jeez.
What was your initial reaction to all of that?
Well, the way I kind of process this is when the news first came down and the NBA was the initiator, when Rudy Gobert tested positive for the virus and the NBA said, that's it, we're calling it. and then every domino kind of fell into place after the NBA. But I think when it first happened, it was still sort of this like abstract thing where like it didn't impact you right away because you could kind of treat it like, well, maybe this particular night it's a slow night for the league or a slow night for my team, or my team is just not playing. So you could kind of get through that for a night or two. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But then once you hit night 3 and night 4 and your teams still aren't playing, and then more announcements come down and more players test positive, then you start to feel the impact of this. And, you know, like you said with March Madness, you know, we're airing here on a Sunday, but we're sitting here doing this on a Thursday, which
Correct.
would have been day 1 of what many people consider the greatest sporting event in America, March Madness. And to not tune in at noon and see Greg Gumbel and the studio crew.
Jimmy Nance.
Yes, Jim Nance, you know, and Clark Kellogg, and all our familiar March Madness compadres. To not have that, to not have the theme music, that's when it
Breaking
hits
my
you.
heart right now, Matt.
It's breaking my heart to talk about it, but you know, like I said, once the actual days arrive when the events should have been taking place, that's when the impact is felt. And again, we're 6 days away as we're sitting here now recording this, 6 days away from opening day, and when that hits, that's gonna be another, you know, like a sledgehammer to the chest.
I mean, literally, we were going from the probably the most, I always say the most crowded, but the time when there's been the most sports going on.
Yes.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Starting up. We have the NBA and NHL playoffs, March Madness, as you mentioned, the Masters.
Yes,
You
that
know?
too.
I mean,
Don't overlook the Masters.
To nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we were talking about therapists last second. I mean, are there any
need some.
lack of sports therapists out there? I mean, it's just really now. I mean, but it really goes to show you the hole that that a void of sports is bringing to our lifestyle right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm nervous to make this comparison because I don't want it to come off as a comparison, but hopefully 9/11 is the worst tragedy any of us will ever see in our lifetimes. When that happened, obviously sports took a step back. But when
As well it should have, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
Right,
100%. But when it returned, I mean, it was something that people needed so bad to distract you from the horrific events that had taken place, you know, days before. And even to this day, you know, here it is 19 years later, which blows me away. People still talk about the impact that Mike Piazza home run had when the Mets returned and they're wearing the FDNY and NYPD hats and uniforms, and he hit that go-ahead home run. That is an iconic moment, not just in Mets history, but in baseball history. But this is different because what this is becoming, this coronavirus, it's wiping out sports. You know, 9/11 didn't do that. It had to delay sports, but it was something that we could kind of rely on to help establish a sense of normalcy after the horrific events of 9/11. But again, this is different because, you know, this pandemic is eliminating the thing that we have so often relied upon to get us through tough times. That's what makes this, you know, worse and terrible on a level that none of us have ever experienced before.
Oh, it's so funny. And you see all those cartoons out there, and I have to share them with you. You see a cartoon of a woman sitting on a couch and a man just like looking at the TV dazed, and he's like, now that there's no more sports on TV, there's this strange woman on my couch, also known as my wife.
Yeah, and you are, you know.
Exactly. But you know what, Matt? This week, if you were a sports lover, at least you had NFL free agency to keep it going.
Thank
and let's
goodness.
talk about the biggest splash, and that's TB12.
TB12 to TB.
The TB, exactly.
Yeah,
TB.
yeah.
And we're not talking about Terry Bradshaw.
Sorry, Terry.
Exactly. Sorry, Terry. Let's talk about Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Shockingly leaving the New England Patriots and heading down to Florida. No sales tax, Florida, they might add.
Yeah, smart guy. Tom
Smart
Brady
guy
does a
is
lot of
smart.
things is not dumb. So they're now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as I've read more than once. I got to credit the New York Post for that, the Daily News.
Oh my goodness.
But
that's
you know
great.
what? This whole thing, I think there's a lot of layers to this because there was I think a Bleacher Report article that came out a few days ago that said as recently as, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, Bill Belichick was actively trying to get rid of Tom Brady. Why? I don't know. Why you would want to get rid of the player many consider the greatest quarterback in NFL history, but I think that Belichick needs the challenge of winning without Brady Because let's be honest, these
So you
guys.
think it's like a game within a game?
I think so.
And you know what? A
I
lot of
think
people
so.
do. And
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you as well. That's
Because
very interesting.
I think Tom Brady wants to prove that he can win without Belichick, and Bill Belichick wants to prove he can win without Tom Brady. Now, who the Patriots quarterback is going to be next year, I have no idea. We know who it's going to be in Tampa Bay, and that's Tom Brady. And I think, after 20 years, 9 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowl wins, what more could you do? So I think that at the stage where Belichick is at in his coaching career and where Brady is at in his playing career, he's going to be 43. He's not a spring chicken. So he knows that if he's going to have a chance to prove he can win without Bill Belichick, he's got to do it now. He can't, he wants to play till 45. That's only 2.5 years off. So if you're going to make this break, make it now. I think it's going to be fascinating to see who kind of gets the upper hand here.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Tampa Bay, New England Super Bowl next year?
Oh, boy. A long shot, but it'd be a dream. I mean, an absolute dream for the NFL and for the network that's carrying it. And it would be. But I think just in general, every Tampa Bay game is going to be a ratings bonanza. I think every New England game, maybe not to that extent, but there's going to be a fascination with, can they win without Tom Brady? We haven't had to answer that question for 20 years.
And there was a city that was really needing it. I mean, I don't think they've had a sellout in the last 10
Tampa,
years.
no.
Yeah, the Bucs we're talking about,
Yeah,
right.
right,
Down
right.
at Raymond James Stadium.
That Super Bowl is ancient history. It's like, 20, 25 years ago.
Brad Johnson was the quarterback.
Brad
Do you remember
Johnson,
that?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that was all defense that one.
Yeah,
night, as
John
you
Gruden
remember.
was the coach, so that was a long time ago. And I mean, this is an instant injection of interest and intrigue for this franchise to get, again, the guy that many consider to be the greatest ever. He's your quarterback.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Now, we do have a few seconds here, Matt. Any other surprises that came about in NFL free agency? We had Phillip Rivers, now in Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Pretty from the Chargers, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Anything else that stuck out?
I mean, Drew Brees remained with the Saints. It wasn't anticipated that he was going to go anywhere, but for him to stick around is
not
obviously
retire.
good.
Right.
For New Orleans. A lot of guys changed teams. There were some big time trades. I think just before we recorded this segment, Todd Gurley, who as recently as 2 years ago was the premier running back in the NFL,
Breaking news.
Released.
Wow.
by the Rams.
I didn't even know that. I'm shocked.
All about breaking news here on the Pulse.
I was going to say, this is why he's the expert.
That's
I
why,
told you.
at least I call myself one.
Exactly. Well, we call him Doug.
Yeah, So
Anyway.
But I mean,
crazy.
yeah, just shocking news that it was, kind of a salary cap thing. But again, for a guy to go from here at the top of your profession to unemployed, that just shows you how cutthroat the NFL is.
Well, Matt Waymeyer, our sports insider, we hope we see you very, very, very soon.
I hope so, too.
Because that means sports.
Start
will be
playing
back.
sports.
I was going to say,
Do
come on,
something.
stay inside so the games can be played,
That
folks.
too.
Folks, join us next week for the Pulse on everything you need to know. Have a great week, everybody.